Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back at the FIRA again. I am sure that you've been watching this in December, where we showed what we were going to do this year with our onboarding crew. For those who didn't look at, or weren't there at that time, maybe it's a good thing to check back the video that was recorded back then, because I'm not going to talk about all these things we said down there. But in fact, we're going to take you with a tour to what we're doing right now in the season on outdoors. So we prepared a video for you with an overview of the different types of contracts that we're working with. And we're going to take you to a small peek on the outside down here at Campus Almkerk, where the teams are working on a couple of solutions. So to give you a feeling of what's happening when we go outdoors, we have the teams leaving the site down here in Almkerk, driving to each individual onboarder and working with them on their questions. So what they do down there is they land at the site, they put down the communication systems and they put down things. One of the guys we're working with is Hyberts, who's doing the flower bulbs. We work with Vanderspek, who's doing ecological farming. We work with the Velhorst Estates, who is doing nature-inclusive farming in a very biodiverse way. We work with Campus Almkerk down here, where we do digital food hub development. We are at the Floriade Expo, where we investigate the integration of farming inside cities. We work with the TOG Foundation to do industrial growing in both a traditional new way. And we work with Omen, who is a contractor, figure out how to do contracting with robots in large field systems. So one of the things we're doing at Campus Almkerk is testing the weed detection and removing things like thistle. And you see it removing down here, one of an example. What you see down there is Robot 1 with, in this case, a different set of tools. So there's a couple of pins and there's drills mounted to the system, and it's driving across the driving lanes that's defined in the system. And what happens is that the cameras now detect a plant, and you can roughly see the way that goes. So there have been runs across the field to train and teach the system what a thistle looks like in this system. And then it detects it and puts the action. In this case, it's the orange drill head, which is pointed at the thistle, and it's removed quite successfully, as I may say. Now, at the Vanderspek area, we're mostly running now with getting the fields into the system and integrating data with the farm system. So things like GPS terrain plotting, things like scanning the height and depths of the field, where the plants are, and getting the training system up and running is one of the things we're doing down there. So that means putting the data layers of the farm, what's there now, on top of the system that the robot needs. So this takes actually quite some time. So things like using drones to fly across the fields and integrate these drone maps with the robot maps, and that way providing a way to do predictive things on what's going on in the field and to prepare the jobs that the robot has to do the next time it's around there at the site. Now at the Velhorst Estate, we're really looking for biodiverse ways to remove weeds, and what you see down here is an example of the rotating head, which I will be talking about later. And what you can see down here is you can do quite a power tool, and you can move it quite closely to the plants. This is one of the very big advantages of using Robot 1, where you can actually combine all these actions. Now you can also do in-row weeding with this system, or in-row hoeing, or whatever you like. What you see down here, so it detects the plants and generates a path around this individual plant, and that way cleaning up the lanes of where the plants are at. And the funny part is, because it's a rotating head, you don't need a very high driving speed to get a proper action. So another way of working there is to do the tilling action at a very detailed level. What you also still do is quite traditionally is to do between row hoeing, for which you might need a height map to be very precise with the depth which you want to do the hoeing. So the funny part is, with this system, you can use the data that you record to generate an exact hoeing depth, for example. Now also with these types of locations, we're also doing the GPS terrain plotting, so we're also integrating data which is currently used on the farm into the system and connecting all the systems that they need together to provide very accurate plant locations and to have the robot work around the plants. So that's one of the things we're doing with all these farmers, is to integrate these systems and to help them to use that type of information with a robot. It's one thing to do it in a traditional farm, it's another thing to do it actually with a robot. So that's one of these things that have to be done, and what we do when the onboarding team is at the site is to help the farmer get it running. And of course this takes time, and what you see when working together with the team, they have to get used to each other. The robot has to get used to the farmer to know what he's gonna work on. So there's different types that you see down here. There's different ways of controlling the height. You can do it programmatically with a type of hoe. You can do it with a spring to adapt for certain depth changes. So that's one of the ways to go. So another thing to zoom into. So the rotating head to go around the plant is quite accurate way of being very precise on removing weeds or other plants in between the planting. And in this case, it's done in an example where there's a 50 centimeter planting distance, which is depends a bit on the type. It's quite far or quite wide. So at the Floriada Expo, which is a great world expo on horticulture amongst others and plant experiences, we have a field where we have pixels printed in the city. And one of the things you see is that down here there's a 40 centimeter planting distance, and down here there's a 50 centimeter planting distance. In a traditional system, this would be quite awkward actually, to have to remove your hose from one planting width to the next. With a Pixelfarming robot, that's really no big deal, because the arms can actually move each one individually. So being at 50 centimeters or being at 40 centimeters really doesn't make a difference to the system. So that's one of the lovely things you can see down there, and I would really recommend when you're in the Netherlands, go there and see all the great things you can experience from the Netherlands, but also from other areas around the world, what's going on greens in the city area. So that's really lovely to see. Yeah, I think this is a great time to go outside and see what's actually happening down there. If that's okay with our cameraman, we're going to walk outside. So I'm going to take you with me, and we're going to show you a little bit of the way that goes. Follow me, if you like. So this is our development site in Almkerk. This is a clay type of soil, which is, I think, one of the toughest ones to work on, because of the lumps that you get, and because it's quite tough to remove certain weeds. What you see down there is actually one of the small testing sites with biodiverse farming, pixel farming, and you see a team working on with one robot to do very accurate removal of thistles in this case, but actually testing the vision system and testing the real very precise locating of the weeds and removing it with a certain tool. So what you see down there, what they're working on, is a different set of more or less precise tools. They could add a laser, they could add all different types of tools to do the action, but in this case they're running with the thistles. And the funny part is what you see actually going on down there is that the robot frame, what it does, it makes sure that the tools are at the right location at 2 centimeter precision with the driving frame, what it's doing right now. And then the inner frame uses the vision system to be very precise on the location, and to actually compensate for the last remaining inaccuracy of the actions. So we go from 2 centimeter precision back to millimeter precision on the action where the tool has to be. So that's already running. So that means that when you use a Robot 1, you can actually make any action that you think is needed for your crop, and basically just put the tool underneath it and have it doing what you want it to do. And that's actually what we see going on with a couple of our onboarders, coming up with new tools, things like you saw with the rotating head, and the thing that you saw maybe, well, no, I'm going to show you later with a finger weeding tool. I'll show you that later. So that's one of the things that they're doing down there. Yeah, another team is working down there. They're testing the contractor fields for Omen, and really what it's about down there is that they're testing to see the basic hoeing action, but in a mixed cropping system where they use different side crops to compensate for climate resilience, etc. And because of the lack of permitted chemicals that's already in the traditional industrial growing area, where you still have less and less chemicals to use. And what this system enables the farmer to do is to put things in between, in this case sugar beets, that buffer the water, that suppress weeds in a biological way, and then by driving through it you can remove certain weeds when you don't need it. Now they're testing also the performance, so the speed. What you see down here is actually the speed that's needed to run 1 hectare per hour. Another thing is, because there's a little bit sun down there right now, what you see at this system now is that it goes off field with the same battery level as it went on field, which means that the solar panels that are on top of the system actually provide enough power for this machine to run it all day. So it doesn't really need the batteries right now to do its operating, which means that it can actually run a full day on a single charge, which might be quite handy when you're a contractor and having to remove weeds. So that's really one of the very big advantages of this machine. Now, so let's go inside. Let me talk a little bit about the different tools that people are making when they use this system. Now, bring my back to you. I hope you follow me. So, one of the things that we're doing, and this is actually what we started out with this thing, and if you would watch the videos from the last sessions, we started with this tool, which is the streaming head, which is our basic power tool, and it can mow grasses and weeds, but also intercrops away at a detailed level. What one of the guys did, well, let's put a rotating head on the same thing and to be able to go inside the soil, because this thing goes on top of the soil, and this way it can go inside, so really remove weeds at the root level with the same action. And you saw actually what was happening on the videos in the beginning, that it's working quite well on the sandy type of soils. We still have to test it on the clay type of soil, but on the sandy type of soil it's working quite well. So what happened on the other side is with our bulb farmer, he said, well, I want to have a finger weeder, a traditional one, and try to use that action on the same way, that way removing weeds in this manner. And as you can see, this is what happens when you provide a cropper with this type of technology. They can do it themselves. Now, and one last thing before I have to go to your questions is the thing that's coming on next season, which is actually a laser. This is a 50-watt laser module, which can simply be mounted towards our head, and that way enabling croppers to work with laser tools at a very high precision with a very high power. You can totally add roughly 500 watts of laser power to your system. And if you look around on the internet, you will find some videos of other companies doing similar things. The funny part is when you use Robot One as a platform, you can use this type of tool to do very precise actions. So, if you are one of these types of croppers, or if you're a contractor, or if you're an ecological farmer, or you're a bulb farmer, you might be a traditional farmer as well, or an industrial grower. If you want to know a little bit more about working with this system, come back and come to us, and we'll talk to you, or maybe enter an onboarding program in your country. We're doing the tour right now. So my name is Arend Koekoek. I'm the CEO of Pixel Farming. I'm not alone. There's a lot of guys around me to help us engineer and make this dream possible.